A very unusual crime has been registered in Russia recently. Food store butter heist. It happened early in the morning in the city of Yekaterinburg. A few people broke into a food store and stole butter. The goal was butter. 20 kilos of butter, 40 pounds. It didn't happen too long ago, on the 5th of November, just a few days ago. Butter. They needed butter. In and out. Gone. Why would someone rob a food store of butter? Don't you find it very odd? Well, not really, considering that butter is becoming a very valuable asset in Russia. And I will tell you why it is happening and what does it have to do with Russia invading Ukraine. Howdy, howdy, everyone. Welcome to Inside Russia. My name is Konstantin. This is where I explain, this is where usual Russia is explained by the unusual Russian. I am the unusual Russian. As usual, you will find here truth, common sense and logic. You will not find BS, propaganda or lies, and you will find emotions because I am a human being after all. This live stream will consist of 3 parts. First is the message itself about butter and other foods. Second is live stream chat where I invite everyone. And the third is the prayer at the end. Thank you. So, very odd news started coming out of Russia about a month ago. Photos of butter in anti-theft cages. You know, those little, very expensive things they usually put into anti-theft cages, such as flash memory cards or expensive razors, electric razors, and so forth. And everyone in Russia started talking about it. It made news. People were showing caged butter. They were uploading pictures and videos. And of course, as a great deal of Russians started protesting. For example, Z propaganda went irate, claiming it was all fakes and butter is readily available in Russia in all stores. And even some bloggers, both Russian and foreign, were showing that there was plenty of butter on the food store shelves. Only they were showing Moscow and St. Petersburg, the cities that aren't exactly Russia. As economically they're much better off than the rest of Russia. Then, like a cold shower, this happened that I just showed you. The heist. Well, very odd. Again, this is a city of Yekaterinburg, and it has over 1 million of residents. It has plenty of jobs. Unemployment is very low, so one could easily get a job. Instead, this young man, what it looks like young man, they choose to break into a store and steal butter. It's nothing but heist. The thieves are after butter, and the price? 20 kilos of regular butter, 82.5% fat, unsweetened. Well, some say, Konstantin, Don't blow things out of proportion. One time deal only. In Russia, anything can happen, and certainly two psychos, crazy psychopaths, break in and steal butter. Or perhaps it's a prank, a joke, a freak of an accident. Well, watch this. This is an official video of the Prosecutor General Office of Moscow. You see this fella walks into a food store, and what does he do? He starts stealing butter. All the butter he could get. Now, don't you think that one would risk his freedom for something valuable only? I think so. And that is the proof that butter has become a valuable asset in Putin's Russia. Vladimir Putin promised Russians stability and prosperity. Well, friends, you are looking at new Russian stability and prosperity right now. Please enjoy. This wasn't about money or about something really expensive, electronics or drugs. This was about butter. A grown man risked his freedom to walk into a food store and he started stealing butter. Whoa. Why butter? Why now? Well, you know what? It's not the first time. Butter problems have a long, long history in Russia. Actually, let me tell you a personal story that happened a long time ago in the USSR. I was growing up in the late 70s and the 80s, and I remember the demise of the USSR. I remember the 80s very well. And the first sign of the demise was butter. In Rostov-on-Don, in the southern city of the USSR, a very large city, we could not buy butter freely. It was rationed. For one person, it was one, not bag, one, how do I call it? One package of butter, about 10 ounces, 200 grams, not even 10 ounces. It was something 7.5, 200 grams. So we had a family of three, my mom, my dad, and myself. So we were able to buy 3 packs of butter every single month. I remember that somewhere my parents got special coupons, paper coupons, and you would go to a food store, present a coupon, and get the butter. Later in the 80s, the coupons appeared for everything. Well, nearly everything. For cigarettes, for soap, for shampoo, for meat, just you name it. But I remember the first ones were for butter. Butter was always deficit in the USSR for some reason. In 1991, the USSR fell apart and food instantly became available and abundant. Well, that is how free markets work. When there's demand, there is supply. In early 1992, I remember seeing all kinds of butter in food stores from small producers, including the very exotic chocolate butter. It was absolutely amazing. Heck, Well, imagine that. All of us, not just we all had food problems permanently in the USSR. And then simply months after the USSR fell apart, these food problems permanently disappeared. And butter was back in the stores as much as you could buy it, as long as you had money. And we thought that butter was back to the stores for good. Boy, were we wrong. Let's fast forward to July 2022. 2.5 years ago, I walked into a large food store in the southern city of Rostov-on-Don called Перекресток, and that was what I saw, butter in anti-theft cages. For the first time in my life, I saw butter in anti-theft cages. I asked the store manager why in the world they would do that, and he answered, very simple matter: old people living on state pensions couldn't afford butter any longer because it went up in price, and they started stealing it. Butter is actually among the easiest thing to steal in the food stores, it turns out. You come to a shelf and slip it into a bag or a deep pocket, and it's really hard to notice. It's just, the food stores were losing lots of money. So it was Перекресток, and I figured perhaps, it's just a freak of an accident. I like to double check things. So I went into a store nearby called Magnet, also a chain store, and I saw the same thing. Butter was caged. And I went into a third store next door, a smaller moms and pop store, same thing. Only they didn't cage it. They put it way behind the counter, behind the cashier. And if you wanted butter, you just had to ask and they would hand it to you, and they would, you'd pay for it. So I made a video about that, and it's still out there on YouTube. Check it out if you haven't. 2.5 years ago, July 2022. And that video was picked up by many news programs all over the world. From Japan to the USA to Canada. Actually, two channels from Japan even interviewed me and used my video in their news programs. Check it out right here.
Они чувствуются во всех сферах.
経済制裁の影響はスーパー、仕事などさまざまな場面で感じます。
Нашими работами.
ウクライナにほど近いロシア・ロストフ州で建設作業を行っているサモイロフさん。
I don't really know what they're saying.
ウクライナ侵攻後、食品などの値段が高騰し、生活に影響が出ていると言います。
I don't know what they're saying, but they were just asking me about butter and things like that. And this is the caged butter, look. 2022, anti-theft cages.
鍵のかけられたプラスチックケースに入っています。
盗難防止用のプラスチックケースに入れられたバター。
Very, very, 129 rubles, 159 rubles for, this 200 grams of butter.
このスーパーではバターの盗難が急増し、ケースに入れる必要が出てきたといいます。
This actually is a part, the footage I provided to the Japanese channel. That's my film is available.
オリーブオイルは2倍に値上がりしているといいます。
これから私たちの
Anyway, a large blogger, Jake Bro, also made a reaction video on my anti-theft caged butter video, and it's still out there on YouTube. It was pretty bad. It was getting pretty bad in Russia back then, in the summer of 2022. We were expecting a complete crash, and very fast crash of Russian economy. And then a miracle happened. And that miracle is oil prices, global oil prices. They skyrocketed in Russia, unsanctioned there, then yet started raking in dollars for exporting oil. A great deal of money was spent to quiet down the economy. And the money lasted for 2 years. Now, in late 2024, it is very different. How? I'll tell you after I would like to, after I make a small message. No, not advertising, not sponsorship, nothing like that. Using this opportunity, I actually would love to thank you again for your support. It's been a very tough month for me. I had Bell's palsy, my face was paralyzed, and I was medicated, and I received so much support from you. So many emails, wonderful comments with words of encouragement, wonderful emails, Telegram messages. Thank you. Thank you so much. It means so much to me. It's actually helped me a great deal. Thank you for all the coffees that you bought. Thank you for all funds you sent to PayPal. Thank you for becoming patrons of Inside Russia at Patreon. And just thank you for watching. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for not giving up on me and not forgetting about me. I am back to normal streaming schedule. I am live every single day from now on. Hopefully forever. So, friends, again, thank you so very much. Let's fast forward to today, late 2024. Money that Putin made, that extra money, is gone. Putin cannot butter up Russian economy, and regular butter is back into anti-theft cages. And even worse, there are butter heists organized to steal it. So what's going on, and how come it's just butter? Perhaps there's something else. There's troubles in some kind of different industries or with different food products. Let's try to figure this out. Let's take a look how butter is made. Making butter isn't rocket science. My uncle has lived at a farm all his life, and I spent a great deal of my childhood back in the USSR. Great deal of summers in the countryside with my cousins at my uncle's place. Well, we made butter. The uncle owned a cow, and his wife milked it every single day. I think even twice a day. I'm not sure about that. And we would use a special electric machine. We called it separator. It's actually that's what it was. It separated milk and cream. Then we mixed the cream and got butter. I don't remember the details of the process, but I remember the taste of that butter. It was absolutely awesome. To make butter, you need milk. Therefore you need cow. Cow needs to be kept somewhere warm and safe. It needs to be fed. It needs to be checked regularly for diseases, vaccinated by foreign-made vaccines and given foreign-made medicines, because Russia doesn't produce anything, including medicines, Then you need foreign-made equipment to milk cow. Of course, you can do it by hand, and that's what they did long time ago, but like my uncle's wife did. But the big companies, they don't do that. They don't milk cows by hand. Then you need foreign-made refrigerators to keep milk fresh. Then you need foreign-made trucks to transport milk to large dairy factories. And, oh boy, those factories are full of foreign equipment. It's all organized and automized. And then milk is turned into butter and packed. And you need special machines to pack it. And packaging is usually made by foreign companies or using foreign materials. Then you need to transport packed butter from factories to warehouses. Then from warehouses to the stores where butter finally bought by consumers. You need to put diesel fuel into those trucks that transport milk into the factories, butter from factories to warehouses to the stores. They go back and forth. They use lots of fuel. Now imagine that all foreign equipment is much more expensive to maintain now, these days, because you simply pay US dollars to foreign companies to buy spare parts or perhaps get service. So you pay in dollars for that, but all the butter you sell for Russian rubles. And everyone along the way, all the manufacturers, growers, farmers, and so forth, now they pay 25-27% annuity to get some credits from commercial banks. And you need credits, operation capital, right? That's simply because the central bank jacked the key interest rate up to 21% to fight inflation. What do you do then? That's right, you jack up the prices of butter, and the consumers pay for the increased costs. And your butter, in this case, becomes gold. Now, I simplified the process of producing butter a great deal, but I think you get the idea. The whole thing is divided into different stages, and every stage costs money. It has costs. But it gets even more interesting. Let's add one more detail to the picture. The last, but far from the least. Imagine that every single stage that I described, there are people at that stage. Those who take care of cows and milk them, those who drive trucks, those who fix refrigerators, those who work at dairy factories, at the store, at the warehouses, accountants, business people, maintenance people. Thousands of people are involved in what's called the supply chain. There are men and women, about half and half. Do you see where I'm getting at? The male half has been really reduced now, mobilized and sent to Ukraine to the front lines. So, in this case, you have to increase wages of the remaining ones and increase wages to attract new hires, whoever you can find. Remember, Vladimir Putin was bragging about record low unemployment? Well, that's not a good thing, Sherlock. At the end, all costs increase, and they increase a great deal. And the customers pick up the bill, paying much higher price. And that's exactly what you see at the Russian stores. Remember in my video that I made and the Japanese picked up? Remember the prices? 129, 159. Right now, go to Russian store, you will see 250, 290, in that range. The prices have almost doubled in 2 years. Butter costs more to make, and definitely people pay much more at the Russian stores to buy it. This is a crisis in the dairy industry. Now, what I've described is pretty much a normal economic process. Free markets. Over time, market's invisible hand would balance it out. This is how markets work. Increased demand creates increased supply. But over time, it usually doesn't happen overnight, okay? And especially in an industry like, dairy food, because the supply chain is very long. You have to start by breeding cows, by raising cows, and it takes years, okay? So the invisible hand of market's invisible hand would take care of things, would balance it out. But there's a very visible, hairy hand in Russia, and that hand belongs to Russian government. This troubles with butter, they started coming out on top. And the politicians all of a sudden got excited. The deputy speaker of the lower house of parliament, Boris Chernyshov, saw the increasing butter prices and sent a letter to the Ministry of Economic Development questioning that, demanding, really requesting that they take action to control the prices of socially important essential foods. He has proposed that the ministry would monitor prices and, if necessary, introduce government restrictions on the cost of such food products. The matter became political. And where, Russian government, where politicians step in, oh boy, watch out. Things are not gonna end up well. The Ministry of Trade and the Ministry of Agriculture stepped in and announced that Turkey, the country, Turkey, now would export butter to Russia. And the Russian government would be buying butter for Russian people from Turkey. And this is it. This has happened. The first shipment of butter from Turkey came to Russia on October 31st. 20,000 tons of butter. Then India joined the suit. Then some other countries have joined as well. At this point, 2 weeks later, I believe that Turkey has supplied 90,000 tons of butter. And the numbers from India and other countries are unavailable, but they're supplying. Retail sales of butter and margarine in Russia decreased by 1.3% from October 23rd to September 24th, according to a company called Nielsen IQ. The Federal Anti-Monopoly Service Agency attributed the rise in butter prices to increased production costs, including higher costs for raw milk and milk fat. No shit, Sherlocks. Really? We didn't know that. Soyuz Молоко, that's industry players organization, explained the higher costs by the increase in production costs along with the entire supply chain, from raw materials to processing. No kidding, Sherlocks. 16% higher in August than a year ago. In August 24 than in August 23. And this, as they explained, due to a 24% increase in employee salaries, a nearly 20% increase in raw material costs, increased credit burdens, 21%, the key interest rate, and rising inflation. No kidding, Sherlocks. November 14th, things got very serious. The Prosecutor General announced investigation into the major producers of dairy products and butter. It's called Business Russian Style. Voila, that's all you need to know about Russian government. The visible market hand grabbed producers by their throats. That's how usually it's done in Russia. And that, I think this is step number one to steal the plants, the dairy plants, processing plants in the future from the rightful owners. But we will see about that. So they announced on November 14th, and at the very same day, the Prosecutor General's office, probably they announced in the morning, and at the evening they had the result. So the Prosecutor General's office inspected some milk producers, companies called Wimbledon and Eco Milk, and the prosecutor's office announced that it achieved positive result. It achieved adjustment to the previous price level for, those products. I quote, before the inspection was completed, the processes of the products Wimbledon and Eco Milk and others reported on the actions taken to adjust milk prices to the previous levels. I unquote the Prosecutor General's office. Easy. And this is how it's done. Voila. You know, you announced a huge inspection. You show up at the plants. You scare the heck out of people. You intimidate them. I don't know. You blackmail them. And then they announce that they take the prices back. Now, I've been in business all my life. I worked for a large corporation building power plants. And I know a thing or two about, how business is done, how the products are created. I wonder how, with all the circumstances, they are lowering the prices. But hey, let's talk about it a bit later. The Prosecutor General also stated that the decision to raise prices that the big, processors and manufacturers did were taken in the absence of objective economic grounds, as indicated to manufacturers and companies in cooperation with them. I just love this phrase. You see how it works? A prosecutor general comes to your plant. Most likely they go to the general director, man or woman in charge of everything. And, they say, you know what? Your prices are too high. What can you tell them? But, this is what we do. This is a free world, free market. We compete with others. And they go, well, let's get your salespeople and marketologists. And they put salespeople on the spot and marketologists. And those are probably scared to death. And they tell them, why do you raise your prices? And they go, well, because the cost of production is raised. And the Prosecutor General's people, they go, we think it's, there's absence of objective economic grounds. And you can't do that. You can't raise the prices. And these people scared to death, half alive, half dead already. And they'll go, okay. Guilty is charged. You know what? We're going to lower the prices. The Prosecutor General's office people go, okay, mission accomplished. So decisions to raise prices initially were taken in the absence of objective economic grounds. I love this phrase. Just love it. I wrote it down. Supervision in the field of pricing for socially significant goods is carried out in the prosecutor's office on a systematic basis, including before major holidays, such as New Year holidays. The prosecutor office also said, they stressed it. Now, I've never heard that before, that they supervised pricing for socially significant goods. For what? For sugar, for salt, for buckwheat, for milk. I don't even know how to comment this, because this is not free market. This is not capitalism. Capitalism is you're on your own. Market decides. If you jack up price and it's unfair and your competition is lower, no one buys from you. You lose money. So you have to compete with the others. You try to make a better product and sell it for less than your competition. And this is the progress. This is how it's done. Instead, the Prosecutor General comes to you and says, you know what? Your pricing is not based on objective economic conditions. Therefore, you must lower it, or you're going to go to prison. Wow. Business Russian style. Well, Soviet style, really. Because I remember different Russia. Do you know where it leads to? That's right. Shortages. The producers will close down factories and seize the operations. Inflation is high, All costs are up. I'm just wondering how they can keep the prices low, or the same at least. With the inflation going into 30% per year, it's impossible. That's not market economy again. That is pure state regulation. Not even regulation. In the USSR, there wasn't any businesses to regulate, okay? Now there are businesses. This is intimidation. This is mafia style management. Not even Gosplan, mafia. And the state prosecutors' measures, they haven't worked out. I think that's more of a show, just one time only, to kind of meet KPI, their plan for a year, something like that, or to make a statement in the newspapers. Because prices haven't gone down pretty much all over Russia. Perhaps a couple manufacturers lowered the prices, but you can't really knock on every single producer's door. Okay, there are big and small ones. And Prosecutor General's office, they simply don't have manpower. They don't have resources to knock every door. So the prices for butter are still high, and they going up every single day. In most places. Butter is becoming less affordable, and it's becoming more luxury. I remember, I don't have to go far. I remember the time where butter was luxury for us. We cooked using sunflower oil, seed oil. That was readily available. Butter was luxury. It was rarely used because we didn't have many of it, okay? I couldn't stand the taste of food cooked in sunflower oil because it had a certain smell to it, okay? And butter was just, it was tasty. Unfortunately, we didn't have much of it. Russia is following the footsteps. Please understand, it's not just butter, it's everything. Right now, Russia is having problems with potatoes. Potatoes have gone up. Butter so far, just in 2024, has gone up 29% in price. Potatoes, Russian staple, have gone up in price 67%. Russia has started importing potatoes, and this is the harvest. Okay, it happens in September, and Russia usually grows potatoes that probably could feed half of the world, but not this year. Not when Russia is waging the war in Ukraine. Not when Russian government starts interfering with businesses, okay? That's back to the USSR. That's when you run out of potatoes. How is this possible? Okay. Carrots, apples, other food products, they're becoming less and less affordable. They're still found at the stores everywhere, but some of them, Russian government starts importing from foreign countries to supplement local producers and growers. And this is not a sustainable economic way. This is just the beginning of long economic decline. I call this economic tsunami, and this economic tsunami will take many lives of Russian people. We had a really hard time in 1992 when the Soviet Union fell apart and there was a transition from planned economy to market economy. So 92 and 93 were tough, but the times ahead of us, well, not really ahead, the times that are here already are going to be so much more tougher. My friends, I want to, at the end, tell you, don't make your own mistakes. Learn from our mistakes. Watch your politicians. Don't let them get out of control. Because if you do, one day you might wake up in your country that will look exactly like Russia, where butter is becoming luxury and potatoes must be imported from Egypt. Thank you so very much. It's been my message, and I invite everyone to join me in the live stream chat. As I am turning it on, I'd like to remind you that there are so many news these days come out of Russia every single day. And I carefully select 9 news every day, add my commentaries and analysis, and I make them available to patrons, so Inside Russia. So if you wanted to know everything about Russia but didn't know where to ask, you know now. Sign up to become a patron of Inside Russia and get access to the news that are important, that matter, and that portray the demise of Russia. And the live stream chat is on. This is my most favorite part of any live stream. When I see all of a sudden it comes alive and full of people. I would like to thank you again for coming, giving me a chance. If you're here for the first time, I'd like to inform you that Inside Russia is a great community with the best moderation team in the world. Lorna, Mammy K, Harry Potter, Bob S, Amir, Prince Amir Fazad, and Dirk. Fantastic friends and just the best moderators on internet. Friends, if you want me to see your comment or question easier, please put it in all caps and put Inside Russia after @ so it's highlighted in a large orange box, just like Harry Potter did. Thank you so much, Harry. And Leitmotiv for me, and the usual suspects. Fantastic to see everyone. Paula W, Terry, Leitmotiv, Sherry, Diane Hernandez, Sherleaf, Exitus, Mac, Joao Marinos, Kermo, Great Southernland Guy, good to see you, Roy Cousins, Pamela, 2 Minute to Midnight, Royal Oak, and others. Fantastic to see everyone. Thank you for coming, friends. I hope you liked today's live stream. If you did, please do me a favor, like it, press the like button because it helps a lot to promote the channel and promote the video. So there's a question from Guy, what the fudge? This special margarine operation is another failure. Guy, get ready. It's going to be failure after failure after failure. There's going to be margarine, butter, apple, carrot, potatoes, banking, electronics, all kinds of operations. They have been going on. All those operations started on February 24th, 2022, when Vladimir Putin came out and said, well, you know what? I claim responsibility. I made the decision to invade Ukraine. Okay? All these special operations began right then. And it was obvious. It was obvious. Palm Tree Kate, Konstantin, thank you so much. Kate, thank you for wonderful words. Fantastic to see you. Dale Musser, at the start of Putin's war, weren't farmers the first ones he started taking as troops for his war? Not really. He didn't single out farmers, but they were indeed the first ones to go. And this is why. And I mentioned it in the stream. I said along the supply chain, there are people involved at every stage. And men and women, 50-50. And men are gone, or most men are gone, because what happened is they didn't want to target residents of large cities, because large cities with dense population is where possible protests can happen against mobilization and so forth, you know. So instead, at first, they went to rural areas, and it just happened to be farmers. And farmers, great people, judging, you know, my uncle, fantastic, hardworking. I mean, that's probably the most hard workers in the world. I remember going to my uncle, and he always worked 24/7. And as soon as we came in, myself, and my cousins, he would put us to work. We would feed chickens, we would do this and that, and would clean and move something. Always. We were kids, 10, 11, 12 years old. We worked at the farm. And my uncle doesn't, well, the farmers, they don't have much time to study the laws or fact check the news, and they're very simple people. And when the government comes, they usually do what the government says. They don't know their rights. They don't know that, they can protest the decisions and they don't have to follow the orders. They don't know that. So they went. Most of them went. And so you're right. Terry, is this problem with butter going to spread? I'm not sure what you mean. Craig Hughes, how the hell do farmers feed and keep milk yields up during winter? They can't eat frozen grass. Many would be better off losing livestock to reduce overall costs. Now, this question can be answered in two parts. In normal time, Russian farmers would stock on food for cows in the summertime. They would take lots of grass and dry it up. And cows eat dried grass, and it works, And they also use silos, I don't know. This bunch of different crops cut together, and they put into large warehouses, I take it, and then, they take it and out in the winter as needed, and they feed the cows. That's what happened. What happens? What is happening? That's in regular times. What is happening right now is, you're absolutely right. Farmers find it very expensive to keep cows, the livestock. So they've been killing cows. They've been killing them and using them for meat. And right now, Russia is heading towards a huge, much bigger crisis, because it's not just the price will increase, but the amount of milk will decrease greatly, because there will be so fewer cows, okay? And you got that wrong. There's even a bigger crisis on the horizon in Russia. Russian government, it deals with problems at a time. There's a problem with high prices now. It sends the prosecution, the KGB, the prosecutor's office, and those blackmail the producers into lowering the prices or not raising prices, okay? When the problem with cows will arise, they will deal with that in a similar manner. Let's take our popcorn and watch how it unfolds. I would love to see. I will see that, and I'll definitely report. Scott Nesbitt, howdy. Palvia Flex, good to see you. How long until we see bread lines again? How long until we see bread lines again? Well, not for quite some time. We're seeing egg lines already. In Kamchatka, there's egg lines again, because eggs are going up in price again, and chicken meat is going up in price again. Actual bread lines, I think we'll see the last, because even in the USSR, we had bread, and just we had to sometimes stand in line for bread to get bread. Anyway, not anytime soon. But we will see people will be able to afford less and less. That's for sure. People will be hungry, but not because of our bread lines, but because lack of money. Daniel McInnes is here. Good to see you, friend. Carlos Enrique Salas, thank you so much for good words. What about gasoline prices? Will there be endless queues with waiting time extending for 2 or more days, like in Venezuela? Look, Venezuela has gone so far. If Russia goes as far as Venezuela, yes, there will be gas lines. Right now, there aren't any gas lines, and prices for gas are still under control. For one simple retail prices, for one simple reason. Russian government subsidizes the prices. In other words, it pays so many rubles into 1 liter that is bought by a consumer. Say consumer pays 60 rubles and the government pays to the oil companies another 10, 15 rubles. That's how it is keeping the gasoline prices low. There are rumors that this measure is going to subsidiation is going to be canceled next year, and I believe it because there's no money. They've run out of money. They've spent it all. They basically burned money, and they can't subsidize any longer. And we will see increased prices, much higher prices for gasoline. And it's like a snowball. Once it starts rolling, it becomes bigger and bigger, and you have hard time stopping it. Gracia, thank you so much. Been looking for a previous stream where you talked about rationing of sugar and neighbors could be arrested for selling their excess tomatoes. Want to show it to people? Please show it to as many people as possible. That is the USSR, and this is where Russia is heading towards, back to the USSR. And I just don't understand. People of my generation and older, and even a bit younger, everyone from 40 years old and older still remembers the USSR, and it was not a pretty place. It was a horrible place. And they want to go back into the USSR. It beats me, friends. What's the matter with those people, Sam K says rubles are worth less than monopoly cash. It's probably cheaper to burn than newspaper. No, you're wrong. Rubles are not worth less than monopoly cash. Give me some rubles, please, if you think cheaper than monopoly cash. 1 ruble costs 1 cent, or actually less than 1 cent American cent. It costs significantly less than 1 penny or pence, 1 unit of the British pound. Well, still, you have 5,000 rubles. That's $50. That's it's much more expensive than monopoly cash. Much worth much more. But I think it's getting to the point where it's going to be somewhat close to monopoly cash. We might see it in the second half of 2025. David, traditionally Moscow imported butter from Belarus. You can only imagine how bad things have gotten. Well, it still imports butter from Belarus. This is how it works. Suppose that Russia needs 1 million metric tons of butter every single day. Russians eat that much butter. It's out of the first number I thought of. Okay, and market is stable. There are so many producers, processors. There are so many stores. There are so many warehouses, and there are so many people that are involved in the process. Now, 10% of that amount is volatile, meaning companies go out of business, new companies emerge, and then the rest, 90%, stays stable. Okay, it's large companies, work every single day. They have weekly plans, daily plans, annual plans, and so forth, And then Belarus is a part of this market. It has been the part historically. Let's say Belarus supplies 30% of Russian butter. It has been for so many years, decades. Now, all of a sudden, the butter everything starts going up in price, including Belarusian butter. To stabilize the markets, Russian government says, you know what? Oh, another process starts. Some companies start going out of business because they don't have people, they don't have operating capital, they can't get loans from banks any longer, and it's just becoming too expensive for them to work. Their margin is little and the expenses are too high. Okay, so they start going out of business, so therefore less and less butter is supplied to Russian market. Now, let's say instead of 100 million tons, it's 950,000 tons. Then Russian government, and that is even driving prices even higher. So Russian government goes, okay, we're gonna bail the industry out. We're gonna ask the Turks to supply butter, and the Turks start supplying butter. The thing is, their prices are much higher than Russian prices, and then the Russian government probably uses taxpayers' money to subsidize. And then they ask Indians from India to supply butter. Okay, and that's why how they make up that butter that was lost due to processors going bankrupt or people going out of business, deciding simply they don't want to be in the business any longer and so forth. But the amount of butter is still the same. Actually, it's decreasing because, like I said, according to the statistics, Russians this year have bought 1.9% less butter than the previous year. I hope I answered your question. Sorry, it was a long answer. Russian fuel is melted butter. What's the price of vodka? It's going up. I'm not sure. I haven't drank vodka since I was much younger. Okay, so I don't know. The imported stuff, the good stuff, Grey Goose now costs $50+ per bottle, which is, in the dollars, I guess it's the same. But in rubles, used to be 2,000 rubles, now 5,000 rubles. And the salaries have stayed the same in like 15 years, pretty much, They just go up bit by bit, but the prices have gone up tremendously. In the 80s, I had the boater from the Netherlands because we had too much. That's interesting. Warren, I'm trying to figure things out, but again, nothing I can find what prevents you from displaying, the stop chat option. Denise Abbott, how safe is butter from India and Turkey? I buy French unsalted, warm bread and butter. I'm a simple soul. Good question. I don't know how safe Turkish butter. I definitely don't know how safe Indian butter is, okay? Turkey usually has decent quality products, okay? But in Russia, now I'm gonna share very personal information with you. I personally love butter. And from my experience, there are two brands of real butter in Russia. That is, one is French called President. Another one is called Lurpak. I think it's Finnish. Those companies built processing plants in Russia, and they had very high standards of processing milk into butter, okay, cream into butter. Fantastic, fantastic butter. Now, I accidentally invented a test, how to test butter, and it's a perfect test. Usually, you keep butter in the freezer, or not in the freezer. In the USSR, we kept it in the freezer because it was like a long-term commodity for us. Okay, now in the fridge. One day, it was really hard in Tashkent, and accidentally left butter out of refrigerator, and it melted. And you know what? There are only two types of butter that actually stayed butter, only very soft. That's Lurpak and President. Everything else, all other brands, they start melting and become liquids. Some liquids start like they basically disintegrate into liquids. And that, to me, it's not butter, okay? Because I remember real butter is very soft, but it's butter. And when something starts leaking from butter, that's not good, okay? That means that's something else there. Tony G, do you think Russia will attack another NATO country in the future? I don't know. How can I tell you the answer? I don't know, but I hope not. I hope they have enough common sense and enough self-preservation to not attack a NATO country. What do you think about the approval of long-range weapons in Russia? Not in Russia, but to use on Russia. Well, let me talk about it. That's a very long, complicated topic. Let me talk about it in the next one of the following streams. Tom, as long as the great Russian people shrug off the dictator, they will become a democracy, and in time will be one of the greatest countries in the world. Now, I hope so. I am a Russian myself, and I really hope to see my country shine and, well, be peaceful to start with. Be loving, be respecting, to respect others, to love others. That's what I want from Russia, okay? I hope that Russian people will be able to get there one day. It's just a little problem. For the past 400 years, Russia hasn't been a democracy. Russia has been exactly what it is right now, a totalitarian state, run by czars. That's 400 years from now. We'll see how it becomes democracy in the future and when. Jester, are you going to follow up on this butter thing, Kay? Yes, I will, but I most likely will follow up on a weekly news update, crazy news update. Interesting how the prices of butters, they will go up. I mean, there's no question about that. It's interesting to see. Like I said, I'm taking my popcorn and I'm seeing what's going to happen. Gracia, the propaganda is overwhelming here, and what they do not understand what is coming to my country. Well, where are you at? They're so blind. Do you have approximate months of that stream about tomatoes? Do you have that approximate month of that stream about tomatoes? Well, I'm not sure what do you mean by tomatoes. I made a stream about butter being caged up. Yes, either June or July 2022. Check it out. It's either, I don't think it was a live stream, it was a video. It's really easy to find. William R. says Putin brought this upon himself and the country, and I couldn't agree more. You're absolutely right. Illustrate life. If Russia can no longer feed the military troops, is it over? Godspeed, Russians. Well, it kind of like feeds military troops not very well now, and it's not over. So I think they're gonna suffer a lot before they do anything. So love vodka, says Frank Tillman. I used to drink it. I can't say that I loved it, but used to drink it. It was my favorite Grey Goose from France and Rain from New Orleans. What time does your show start in Ontario, Canada times? Asking James Reeves. Just like I started today, midnight in Uzbekistan, minus 9 hours. Is it 2 p.m.? 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in New York. Anyway, it's midnight in Uzbekistan. Great Summerland, we all have seen how complacent Russian people are in regards to government. At what point do they revolt? That's the question I'm also asking. I don't have the answer for you, unfortunately. All I understand is they're gonna take a great deal more suffering before they revolt. Daniel McInnes, I can't see the Buy Me Coffee link. Please help. I will put all the links. Buy Me Coffee demonetized me briefly. I contested, appealed, and they brought monetization back. So I put the link after the end of this live stream, and it's going to be in the description and in, and I think it's already in the description actually, but it's also going to be the first pinned comment in the comments. So Daniel, thank you so much. I appreciate your support. I remember the super chats you were sending. Thank you. Carlos Enriquez Salas, just as a remark, also in Venezuela, the gasoline was heavily subsidized. What is happening in Russia is quite likely to reach the level of Venezuela disaster. You know, I start leaning towards this opinion as well. I think that more and more that Russia will get there in time to where Venezuela are now. And it's a shame because Russia is the richest country in the world in terms of resources. And this is just insane. Mad Circus. The last question, folks, and I will wrap up this stream. Could you talk about Russia talking about nuking the world? Scott, there's been the talk of the town, so to speak, the talk of the country. They are not saying they're going to nuke the world, but they're very afraid that the Ukrainians will start to use long-range weapons on Russian cities. And that's why I think they're bluffing, but they are very, very intensively bluffing. Okay, so I will talk about it later in upcoming streams. And for now, I would like to thank you, everyone, for coming, for being here with me. I would like to say that I'm fantastically happy to be back streaming. It's every day now. This is what I love the best, you know. And this month has been real disaster for me in terms of I haven't done anything. I was just medicated and slowed down a great deal. So thank you so much, friends. I invite everyone to pray along with me, and if you're not religious, please pray anyway. You can call it any way you like. For example, sending good wishes to people, sending good vibes, good energy. To me, it's all the same. So please join us. Let me just grab the prayer list. Let's do it. Thank you, friends. Dear Lord Jesus Christ, thank you so much for giving us this day. Thank you for everything you have given us. Thank you for the food that you've placed on our tables, for the roofs that you've gave us over our heads. Thank you for the loved ones, for people who we love and who love us and surround us. Thank you for our families. Please give us wisdom to keep the skies above our children's heads safe and peaceful. and give us wisdom to raise our children in a way that they will never participate, be a part of any wars, and just be friends to each other and love each other. Please, for now, please keep our children safe and healthy. Dear Lord, I'm asking for Ukraine. Please stop the bloodshed. The country and the people have suffered so much. Please help the country and please help the people. Help every single Ukrainian who has suffered, who has been touched by this terrible tragedy. Answer their prayers and make their wishes come true. Dear Lord, please reach out and touch the hearts and souls of people who are in lethargic sleep or capable of the decision to make to stop the bloodshed, who unfortunately they're sleeping some kind of deep lethargic sleep. Wake them up, fill their hearts with love, remorse, empathy, mercy. Soften their hearts. Remind them that they're still human beings and they have love in their hearts, at least some of it left. So they make the decision to stop the bloodshed. Please help my country, Russia, assemble your strongest angels with sharpest swords and send that heavenly army led by Saint Michael to this earth to get rid of the demons that have hijacked my country, Russia, who we know by their names and by their faces. Please send your angels to help good Russians to run the country, make it peaceful, loving, and respecting. Please help all those who are traveling, send them safe travels. Those who are applying for asylum of any kind and seeking help. Please help those single mothers and fathers who are struggling raising their children, trying to make ends meet. Help those who are helping Ukraine and Ukrainians. Help those who are helping Ukrainian children. Please help those Ukrainians who are currently under attacks or under threats from Russian missiles and weapons. Please help all the hungry, addicted, sick, cold, jobless, homeless, depressed, betrayed, those who are crying, shedding tears, who are not feeling well, who feel abandoned and betrayed, who feel alone. Reach out and touch their hearts. Show them that you are right next to them, watching every step that they take. You have not left them. You are still with them. You care about them and you love them. Please help everyone in need. Dear Lord, thank you so very much for allowing us to pray, bringing us together to pray. Please, thank you for all people who are praying right now or simply watching us pray. Please help everyone who is praying along with me. Answer their prayers and make their wishes come true. And dear Lord, I would like to ask you to help those who are on my prayers list and who need help, who ask for help. They are Ann Larson and her daughter Hannah, Jeffrey S. and his family, Alex, Mark, Tom W., J.R. McKim, Gabin with Gary, Lisa, Harry and family, Terry, John, Linda, Paula, Dennis, Jason, Susie, Tim, Dory, Rhonda, John, Taylor, Wayne, Dave, Don, Darla, George, Pamela, Meta, David Porter, and everyone in Chernovtsi, Ukraine, and David's family, Life, Randolph, Grace, Dean Spooner and his church, Yelena, Natasha, Michael, Jake, Oля, Dasha, Sky, Svetlana, Sergey, Liz, Ron, Liz, Koshkin Dom, Sandra, Mike and Mike, Petra, Joseph, Melissa, Jodes, Greg, Millie, Philip, Eileen. Thank you so much, dear Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Friends, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for giving me a chance to share my opinion. Thank you for discussing. And thank you for praying with me. I would like to remind you that you're awesome and you rock. And I'd like to invite you to come back tomorrow at the same time and give me a chance for another live stream. And before I sign off, I'd like to ask you to say out loud as you can along with me, the following. Carthago delenda est.